My name is Irma. I am a program manager for Federation-wide Ukraine emergency response, where I'm trying to coordinate the processes within the organization so that we could support the most vulnerable families and children in Ukraine and in 8 other hosting countries. I can tell you that I have been in emergency response now for more than 10 years, and numerous emergency response projects that were implemented. And with each and every one of them, I have a feeling a piece of my heart breaks because it never comes from a good story. But I think we should also be thinking in a direction that it's an opportunity to build back better. So maybe to now not to waste too much time on talking about structures and history, I actually wanted to share with you what I have perceived as my own personal and professional lessons learned. And I hope that these could support you further in your work. I've heard recently, and Vika, please stop me in case I'm talking too quickly for a translator. I have told recently that the war in Bosnia was lasted for 3 years, 8 months, and 13 days. And I'm gonna admit to you, I had no idea, because to me, it was lasting a lifetime. I was a teenager back then, and I can clearly remember the first day of the war, but I cannot clearly remember the last days of the war, because, and it has been said that the reason why I remember the first day, it is this initial shock of something destroying your normal life. And the reason why you don't remember exactly the last day is because the new normal is the only normal a child understands. After the initial shocks of the first bombs and seeing the first losses, seeing the first wounded, not going to school, moving to the basements, the children, my generation, was very quickly accepting the new normal as the only normal. Having occasional ceasefires also meant that we as children could go out, we could go out and play. And that wouldn't always end up good. So we were very young also when we understood that we could lose friends and cousins and family. And that also became the part of our new normal life. You also get used to the fact that you either live under bombs or you live under a siege. And you accept that as the new normal. But at the same time, youth stays youth, and I saw my generation extremely rebelling after the initial shocks against what the aggressor wanted to do. We were rebelling against a morbid decision that I and my friends should die because we speak different language, because we have a different religion from them, and because we have different names. So I can tell you that within the first year of war, all the generations that were affected by the war were trying to live a life a little bit more normally. We opened a theater, we started going out, we started taking walk in the parks, we were falling in love, we just wanted to live as if there was no war. And that helped us really survive the years that came. At the age of 13, I was told I need to start a sport, though the majority of us were malnourished and we were constantly under shelling. But I was very happy because I thought sport is, I'm a teenager, sport is good for a teenager, this is very important to have a normal life. And though I was really not good at sport, I kept doing it because it gave me the feeling of being a normal teenage girl who had school and she had sport and she had hobbies. The year after, I was supposed to pick my high school, and I picked the best one that was quite far away from the town where I lived, which made me an additional target to aggressor. But my parents were extremely proud because I choose courage over fear, and I choose further development over stagnation, because as my father put it, this is exactly how the aggressor doesn't want to behave. They attack you from all the sides because they want to demotivate you to give up on life and to raise that white flag. So as you can see, myself and my entire generations, we were really trying to beat the odds that were given to us in that war. And I have realized that there is really no stronger power than love, will, and youth. And this maybe sounds very strong to you, but it took me decades to realize that we were not resilient. We have developed a coping mechanism, which is very important during the war to survive it day in and day out. However, what I didn't tell you is that after the war is over, myself and my generation, nobody has ever helped us mourn our friends and mourn our cousins that we lost during ceasefire while we were playing outside. Because how can I feel lucky by being alive if I have lost a friend at the same moment? Nobody ever helped us understand our parents' mental state, the increased hopelessness in our mothers, the aggression in our fathers, the alcohol abuse all over. And how could you have a loving home if you have all these things present while you're growing up and you don't know why? You are a child, you're a teenager, you don't know where is this coming from. Nobody ever helped us understand that we have lived for almost 4 years, 24 hours a day, under a constant fear of losing a life or losing someone we love and care for. Because how do you live a normal life if instead going to a prom, you have to attend a funeral of 70 friends from your high school? Nobody has actually ever told us that we as a generation and individuals have developed very strong PTSDs that need to be treated. So I'm telling you here because what you may perceive now among the youth and the generations and how strong you are and they are dealing with that, the real work will come once the peace agreement is signed. And that is really, really important to understand, because this is the moment when you build resilience. I think what is important also to mention, because we usually say children are the most vulnerable during the war and after the war, and they are. And there are so many levels of that vulnerability. You will have children who are born on the first day of war in free or occupied territories, who will have different treatment and difficult lives. You will also have children who are born prior to the war, who will not remember the war, but they will be raised by traumatized family members. You will have children who will remember the war. So on top of their PTSD, on top of their own trauma, they will also be further traumatized within their own families who are not addressing their own traumas. And there is a group that not many are talking about, but that has been a huge group of children in Bosnia and Herzegovina. These are the so-called invisible children, the children of war. These children have been born as a result of rape, and the rape conducted over tens of thousands of women in Bosnia and Herzegovina was a strategic war weapon to implement a genocide against another people. Those women were intentionally taken, and the rape was conducted in such a way, and they were only let to freedom once it was too late for these women to take any other action but to give birth to a child. Many gave up these children for adoption. Many of these children have stayed with their mothers, and neither these mothers nor the children have been acknowledged by the society that they were existing. They were rather shoved away by their families, by their communities, by the state. They were not something that one would talk about. However, that is an entire generation of children and a huge group of women with a severe trauma no one ever wanted to hear about. I am happy that today I can tell you that in June this year, Bosnia and Herzegovina became a third country in the world, next to Norway and Colombia, who passed a law of recognizing these mothers and these children as civilian war victims. This is an amazing achievement. It took us 20 plus years to get there, to at least give these children a legal status. However, none of these three countries, apart from a one-off financial support, has developed a real proper support systems for mothers and for children to live with what has happened to them and how they came to the world. I don't think we should wait for such a long time to recognize someone's trauma, especially in children. And to go back, I don't want to take too much of your time. I was trying to, we had a few points that I have discussed with my colleague Evgenia to talk about today, and I realized that this is too many points at once. So I picked those that are addressing the hugest gaps that I have observed privately, personally, and professionally. And what I can tell you, what I think links really well with what SOS Ukraine is trying to do, is that the alternative care was needed and is needed in every country prior to the war. It is 10 more times needed after the war. We have had huge numbers of children who were orphaned due to the war, who had lost one parent, whose parents committed suicide after the war because of the unaddressed PTSDs. And we just had children whose families, whose parents were not capable to take care of them. And the institutions were not being rebuilt, luckily for us. So SOS Children's Villages came to Bosnia and Herzegovina in 1995 to offer alternative care solution. If you ask me as a mother and as a child from the war, nothing better could have happened to already traumatized child, but to place him or her in a safe environment where they could step by step address this and grow up to have their own normal world. Maybe for the end, what I would want to tell you, what I have seen and perceived, is that the moment the war is over, the government will start reconstructing the country. So your only job, and I say only, but it is a huge and enormous and a long-term job, will be to heal the generations that will bring that country glory. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Irma. This applause is to you.